and answer questions through the chat box. Tonight, we're going to be looking at component 3. So let's, I'm going to share my screen and open up my presentation. Okay. You guys see that? Okay, my chat box disappeared. Okay, here we are, teaching and learning, teaching practice and learning practice. Let's see, chat. Okay, there's my chat box. Here we go. All right. Component 3, I'm sure all of you know, or I hope you know, that component 3 is worth 30% of your total score. And it consists of 2 10 to 15 minute videos, captures details from your instructional planning, analysis and reflection of your teaching, and focusing on quality instruction, student engagement, and learning environment. And I will tell you that component 3 is basically the same for everyone. Component 2, boy, that is different for absolutely every certificate. But component 3, we're all basically doing the same thing, but keep in mind, we have different standards. So that means it'd be, you know, a little bit different for yours. Again, I want to show you this acronym that I created. This is very helpful when you are doing components 2, 3, or 4. Students get inspired after reaching goals. This is the 5 core propositions, which all the standards are related to. And this is what you should do throughout, like you have 2 video lessons. So this should be what you do in both of those videos. If you get confused about what you're supposed to do, number 1, who are your students? Where are they? Think knowledge of students. Then you will use the knowledge of students to set worthwhile goals. Then you will align your instruction with those goals, and your instruction should be engaging. We're going to talk about that a good deal tonight too. Then you're going to do formative assessment and collect data. You're going to reflect what worked, what didn't, and then you're going to adjust or set new goals. So this is just a really, really good thing to help keep you on the correct page. This is the component 3. When you get ready to do component 3, there's a few things we want you to look at. Some of your, well, actually everyone's component 3 instructions, which is what you should be looking at. You're going to have several forms. You're going to have an introduction to entry, which is a video focus. You're going to have instructional context sheet. Who and what are you teaching? Instructional planning form. Everybody has to tell what their goals are. And again, when we hear the word goal, we want to think synonym as being objective. But you see video 1 and 2, if you will open up your component 3 instructions to page 3 and read what do I need to do, it would tell you what the focus of your video should be. For example, I'm an MC generalist and I know EC generalist. We have to do 2 videos and we choose between the content areas of math, science, or social studies. So our videos, we could not like do 2 math lessons or 2 science lessons. For the secondary friends, I know many of you it will just say from 2 different instructional units. It's just very significant that it be from different units. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. But this is just sort of a at a glance sheet that helps you to look at that. And yes, you have to be in the video. Unlike the old process where teachers just made an appearance and left the video, this is a big difference for us because it does focus more on your teaching practice. I mean, look at the name of it, teaching practice and learning environment. Your teaching practice is actually what determines what lesson you're videoing. So yes, you have to be in the video. You do not have to be in it all the time, but you should clearly be seen in the video engaging with the students. Okay, 2 issues with component 3. There are two main issues: the lessons you will teach and how you will teach them, and technology. For anyone that has started on component 3 yet, you know, you can work really hard and have phenomenal lessons planned. But if your technology fails you and you do not practice ahead of time, you may end up having to re-video. So we're going to talk about both of those things tonight. First thing I want you to do is make sure you have thoroughly read component 3. And there is a checklist. Let's see if I can find that now and share that with you guys. Give me just a moment. Well, I'm not sure where. Hold on. List. There we go. There it comes. Okay, it should have popped up. If you were at Super Saturday, you received that. If you did not, I just shared it in the chat box with you guys. And it's just a checklist. It's a very good checklist. Hopefully we'll get a moment to look at that tonight too. Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the electronic submission at a glance. Now, this document downloads with every component. It's at the back of the instructions. And it's very significant, especially for component 3. If you will look, you will see the video, the different formats of the videos, the number of files. You will submit one video file for each one, and you will name your videos video 1 and video 2. And in your component 3, there's a whole section on recording your videos. So you want to make sure that you do that. Also, 10 to 15 minutes, you obviously want to get as close to 15 minutes as you can. Anything over 15 minutes, I can promise you they will not read. So get as close to that as you can. You know, if yours ends around 13 minutes and 40 seconds and you're good to go with it, then don't stress or worry about it, okay? But we're going to continue on talking about that. But this is a very significant video to help you guys. Not video, but resource. Okay. Here, yay, here's the checklist. You guys got the checklist? Did everyone see the checklist in the group chat? I'm just going to read over this. Some of this is basic. Your margins are set to 1 inch. Your commentary font is 11-point Arial. Suggested page lengths are followed. Your candidate ID should be on every page that you submit. Just put it in the header. I know the heading is above the 1 inch. That's okay. They don't mind it as long as it's your ID number. You also want page numbers. Put them on your footer. And you do have you're going to see this says WCTP 602. That is a national course. You guys are in WCTP 601. So if you see 602 on this, just separate it with 601. But there is a lesson plan that we want you to look at as well, and we'll look at that tonight too. And because we want to make sure you've completed that lesson plan before you get your videoing done. It's lots of things we're looking for. No more than 3 goals. If you see UM out beside this, that means it's coming from us, not the national board. But the reason we say no more than 3 goals is because you will end up describing more than analyzing in your text. And we suggest that one of those goals on component 3 come from the affective domain. And there's a big section on this in WCTP 601 because the name of this, in your lessons, make sure that if you had to cut your commentary that you did not cut out your answers. Make sure you've read the electronic submission at a glance for your certificate. That's the document we just looked at. The 2 videos feature different lessons and different units of instruction. Each video is recorded during a single class period, not over a period of days. You and your students must be seen and heard in both videos. Now, this is very significant, the 2 allowable edits. This was changed going into this year, and it's very, very restrictive now. Moving a class into a different physical instructional setting, such as a lab, gym, or outdoors. You can no longer cut your tape or stop your tape if you go from whole group to small group. That will make your video unscorable. Again, you can only edit it if you're like leaving your classroom and going somewhere else. Responding to safety drills, changing the battery in your video. So again, those are the only allowable edits, and you're only allowed 2. Videos must come from different instructional formats and different teaching strategies. We'll elaborate a little bit more on that in a few minutes. You've got the different formats that can be saved as, and I think the last thing on here is pretty significant. Videos are recommended to be compressed to 200 or 300 megabytes, 500 megabytes being the video size limit. You probably will have to compress those. Common mistakes on component 3. This is very significant. I've seen a lot of teachers mess up with this, and this is confusion between the 2-page description and the 4-page written commentary for each video. I'm going to back up just a minute to show you what I'm talking about, okay? If you see this page, do you see where up here it's got instructional planning form and materials? Do you see over here and under this column, if you see where my arrow is wiggling around, it says description of instructional planning and strategies, no more than 2 double-spaced pages. That is actually in your component instructions, and it does have specific questions you have to answer. And again, you will do this for each video. Then you have your written commentary, which is 4 pages each. So please do not mistake the description for the written commentary or the written commentary for the description. They're 2 different things, and you have to complete both. Little thought is given to why you choose the instructional formats or teaching strategies. Often what I see is teachers do, okay, I got to do 2, I'll do whole group and small group. Well, how are you going to explain that to the national boards? You've got to use your knowledge of students to determine what instructional format and strategies you're going to use. If you're going to use small group, number 1, that is really cooperative group. If they're just sitting together at a table and they are not working toward a common goal together, then all you have is a seating arrangement. That's not an instructional practice. So you want to make sure you explain, and if you do choose that cooperative group, why are you choosing that? Elaborate on that. If you're doing whole group, why are you doing whole group? If you're doing debate, why are you doing debate? If you're doing partners, why are you doing partners? And you've got to use your knowledge of students when you write that up, okay? Another thing, lessons featured are not engaging in low DOK. When you see that lesson plan, we want you to take DOK 3 and DOK 4 lessons, guys, okay? And you're going to take the whole lesson, even though you're only going to submit 10 to 15 minutes. You may not know which 10 to 15 minutes you're going to submit. So you will teach and record the entire lesson, and you want them very engaged. And teachers often do not practice enough with the technology before they film. So we definitely want to make sure we get you comfortable with that before you do that. What's the National Board looking for in your lesson? Good question. This is also in your Component 3 instructions. They're looking for the learning environment that you have created. Is it safe, fair, and equitable? And if you look at your rubric, you can find those exact words, and then it will even tell you what that means. and then create a student-centered learning environment. Look at this, based on trust and mutual respect. And then look at this, equip students with skills to support collaboration, the ability to ask thoughtful questions and respond respectively to each other. So remember that part of this component's name is learning environment. So that's why we suggest you have a goal, you know, to maybe help develop collaboration or respect for different ideas in it. Student engagement, and you know, we want more than just a worksheet. You can have a worksheet to record your information on. That's great, because you know you got to submit evidence. But you don't want them just doing something on a worksheet and turning that in. There needs to be some sort of activity involved with it as well. And then instruction, you can look to see what it's talking about here. Look at this, facilitate the inquiry process, okay? And guys, that's not me coming up with it. That's National Board. What does that mean? Well, in order to teach a lesson like this, you're springboarding from something you have already done, right? The students have to have some sort of background knowledge going into this lesson. And then you come up with an activity that requires them to use that background knowledge to synthesize that knowledge and to do something with it. So that's what, and you're going to be monitoring, because, you know, often when the students are working like this, sometimes they take the wrong path and they get confused. And that's when you step in and you ask thought-provoking questions that can redirect them head a different direction. Okay? Any questions about that? I'm looking at my chat box to see if anybody has a question about what we just talked about. Okay, I guess not. I don't see any comments. Okay, let's continue. Forms. All the forms are fillable. Your forms download in your folder. When you download your component instructions, the editable forms download. Now, you also have forms at the back of your instructions. Those are just hard copies for you to look at and be familiar with. And you need to fill these forms out, guys, your goals and all of that before you start your teaching, okay? But the form that you actually complete and type in and submit, again, it downloads in that folder that you found your component 3 instructions in, okay? All right. Let's talk a little bit now about the specific forms that you have. You have an introduction to entry form. You will only complete that once, okay? Then you have an instructional context sheet. If you look, you will complete the instructional context sheet, the planning form, and the description for each video, okay? Each video. And instructional materials is also submitted for each video. And then a written commentary, 4 pages each for each video. So most of the time you're completing 2 forms, and up at the top of the form you will write either video 1 or video 2. That way they'll know which video it goes with. Okay, here is the form you only complete it once. This is your introduction to entry form. You see you've got a brief overview of your entire entry. Guys, don't overlook the gray box. The gray box, this does not tell us anything specific in it other than instructions about what to delete and not to delete, but sometimes you can find additional information in the gray box. And again, your rationale, why did you choose this video? Okay, then we have, Brian is asking what's the difference between what the assessors need for the instructional planning form and the 2-page description. I think maybe I have an example of both, and we will be able to look at that. Let's go ahead and look at I think we're about to come to here. Well, that's the instructional context. We'll get to that in just a moment, Brian. This is your instructional context. And again, this is just basically contextual information, guys. Most of this is descriptive. I will point out number 4, identify state and district mandates. If you are having to teach the Mississippi standards, don't write the word Mississippi, but write state standards, and I have a pacing guide I must follow, okay? Very important that you do that as well. And also you will need to put in here like 3, put your, it's asking you about technology. If you are in a one-to-one environment, meaning every student in your room has their own iPad or Chromebook, even if they don't take it home, they have access to it all day, you put it there. And you definitely need to incorporate that into your lessons. Okay, here's the planning form. Now let's look at this. This is a big one. If you see here, I've got a couple of things up here to help you indicate the unit of instruction and the unit goals for the unit. Now, these are things that will not be seen in the video, okay? Just the unit, and again, this is for video 1, so keep in mind you're just teaching a lesson. If you're in math and let's say you're teaching division, you know, you just may be teaching your facts at this point, or reciprocal of multiplication at this point. So you have to talk about what the larger unit is and the larger goal. Then look at the goals for the unit for this lesson as featured in the video. So these are where you talk about, and I would like write G1 for goal 1, G2, G3, and then as you are writing up your written commentary, you refer to those goals, G1, G2, G3. And your assessor will be looking to see, did you meet that goal or did your students work toward that goal? Indicate the instructional format chosen for the lesson, and then describe the materials or resources used in the lesson. And here, if you do any edits, is where you have to explain that. Here, let's look a little bit at the cognitive domain. When you're coming up with your goals, guys, again, I want you to think of the synonym objective. Let's put a verb in there. That will help you get a high quality lesson. You know, you want your students analyzing, evaluating, or creating. And I teach student teachers in you know, sometimes, like for example, if you say create a fraction, and all your students do is put 1/3, a numerator over a denominator, that's not a DOK4, okay? So when you come to one of these verbs and you're creating your goals, make sure that they are really doing that. You should always be thinking of synthesizing, putting information together up here toward the beginning. And it's okay to scaffold to that, but you definitely do not want to do a DOK1 or DOK2, I would say, in your video, unless you're exceptional needs, and then that, you know, that may be, that's a different issue. Let's look at the affective domain, also from Bloom. If you look, you can see, let's look down, look at all of these different things: listening, asking, being open, taking part in, clarifying, contributing, see, responding to, refuting, arguing. Of course, that would be, you know, if they're debating, if you're filming a debate, then you could use something from there. So a lot of good things to hear you, for you to look at here. Again, probably receiving, responding, or value, and probably one of these 3 will be where you would get that goal for the environment. Okay, here's the description. Okay, so Brian, you said that this and the other looked a whole lot like that, so we will look at the 2. Here, your description, you can see, leads you back to your instructional context sheet. Where you identified your students' needs. It said, how did you use the detailed knowledge of students and interest in your planning and your choice of strategies, and what instructional choices did you have? And here, You've got how did the social and physical context you describe influence your planning? So that might mean social development of your students, physical context too. If you're doing a science lesson in your class and you've got your students sitting in the floor, the fact that you did not have access to a science lab is why they're sitting in the floor doing that science experiment. So that's the sort of thing that it wants you to do. Keep in mind, look at this word description. So we're really describing here. Here, what are your long-term instructional goals and plans for any interdisciplinary studies during the school year? Now, if you look back on that planning form, it said for the unit. So here, interdisciplinary, maybe you're going to integrate writing. For those of you that know Jackie Parker has always told me the highest scoring entries that she's ever read always integrated writing. I don't care if they were teaching science, social studies, math, or what, integrating writing. So that might be something that you could put there. That would be a good goal. And then how do the instructional goals for this particular lesson fit into your long-term goals, and what's the rationale for choosing this? Let's quickly go back to that other page. Whoops, I'm headed the wrong way. You guys getting a, whoops, hold on, bear with me. Trying to get back to that form. Here we go. This was the form that Brian said he thought was repetitive. We've got indicate the instructional format chosen. Indicate, so here we're just kind of telling what the goals are, what the lessons for the goals for the video are, and indicate and describe. Let's go back now to here. Here it says, what are your long-term goals? And how to, okay, we've talked about that. How do the instructional goals for this particular lesson fit into your long-term goals and plans? Guys, Brian points out something very good. Often you would think you are repeating yourself. When you feel that way, I want you to take, and usually it's with a form and a written commentary, lay the two side by side. Sometimes it's just one or two words, but it does change the meaning, okay? And then here, the other just asked us to indicate what instructional format we've chosen. Well, here we've got to explain why we chose it. See, our rationale. And that's where you want to talk a little bit about your knowledge of students and, why you chose that instructional format. So it is similar, but again, when you think that it's identical, because I assure you it's not, that's when you need to physically put the two side by side and just highlight any words that are different. Okay, here's your written commentary for each one. The first, how did the pedagogical and instructional decisions you make during the lesson align with your planning? That means basically, did the teaching go like what you thought it would? And don't be afraid here if there's a moment where you have to reteach or where you have to do a mini lesson. This is where you add that. Maybe you guys had to go get a laptop and look something up or something of that effect. Here, I want you to notice what's underlined in blue. Cite specific examples from the video. That means these things have to be shown in the 15 minutes that you submit. What specific approaches, strategies, or techniques or activities that you use to promote active student engagement. Now, you can timestamp this and say, like, at 5:26, you will see the student, or you can just say, as noted in the video. I have, completed National Board several times, and each time I meant to timestamp, and each time I forgot. So you do not have to timestamp, but you want to call them back to something specific if you do not, okay? And again, it's got to be engaging. How do you establish a safe, fair, and equitable, challenging learning environment? I really want you to look at your rubric. You're going to be so excited when you do, because you're going to see those exact words, and it will tell you exactly what they're looking for because it's on your rubric. How did you monitor and assess during the lesson? And how did this influence your decision-making during instruction? So that means, what was your formative assessment? Got to plan for formative assessment. And then, how was feedback provided to the students? And guys, you really want to think about this ahead of time. That's when we have that lesson plan. And I mean, no one's going to grade it, but we really want you to kind of step it up a bit when you record these lessons. Think about it kind of like a formal evaluation. If you know your administrator is coming to evaluate you, you know what his rubric looks like. It's available on the MDE website. So just as you prepare for that lesson, you want to prepare for this lesson as well. To what extent did you achieve the lesson's goal or goals? And this is a good just reason, right? A good example of why you should only choose no more than 3 goals, because you do not have a lot of space or time to write up about it. Provide evidence. So you can say, like, you know, at 7.2, you can see Tommy, the boy in the red shirt, collaborating with Claire, the girl in the yellow shirt. They are working toward, put G2 and explain what they're doing that's connected to that goal. What are your next steps for these children as a result? How is your approach to teaching this content influenced by past experience? Well, you know, almost all of you guys have taught that specific lesson before, unless it's your first year in that grade level or content area. And if that's the case, then you pretty well know when you see an objective coming up, well, this is going to be interesting. This happened last year, that happened last year. And then how was your approach to teaching the content to the children in this video by past experience? We just read that. What would you do differently, if anything? Guys, there should always be something that you would do differently. You're either greening, growing, or ripe and rotting. So you want to do something differently. Let's say it went great, and I hope it does. There's always room for improvement. Perhaps you could have integrated technology different. Perhaps you could bring a guest speaker in next time, okay? So think of what you could do different. If you're totally stumped and you don't know what to do, how would you challenge the students? What would the challenge, what would the extension of that lesson be? And that's where you could include that. So again, you will answer these same questions about both videos. Here's a copy of the lesson plan. This says available in Padlet. That's available to you in WCTP 601. Your unit goals, and see, you'll see I actually wrote this, and I was looking at what you have to do in your rubric when I did this. What are your unit goals? What are your desired results? And then we want you to do DOKs 3 and 4, and here DOK 3 or 4, whatever, and then write what your goal is, and then let's have a goal from the affective domain. And don't let that scare you. Again, that's just something simple as collaborating with each other or respecting each other's opinion. I say the word simple, but in reality, we're all teachers, and those are not simple things to teach students. Then you see you've got assessment, methods of providing feedback. How is this approach influenced by your past? And again, these are things that you fill out before you teach, and you can see that if you complete this before you teach and let your mentor look at it, then you can see how it preps you to have a high quality lesson that you video. So again, this is also available in WCTP 601 Component 3 module. Okay, any questions about any of that? I am looking at my chat box. Okay, I do not see a reply in the chat box, so let's move forward to talking about technology. I'm curious, have any of you guys already videotaped and had an issue with technology? If you have, would you please put that in the chat box and just share with us maybe some technology issue that you encountered, so maybe someone else won't make that mistake? I did a couple of things. I videoed on HD, which created a monster-sized video that took forever to get compressed. And in addition to that, I also had my SD card to corrupt. And I ended up having to shoot with my iPhone because my SD card corrupted. Okay, here we have, going to talk a little bit about video editing and audio enhancement rules. This was updated in the summer of 2018. And here you can see the video edits, okay? So this is going to be in your Component 3 instructions. And I did put this on your, Component 3 submission checklist just to make sure everybody was aware of it. If you want to read more about it, it is embedded in your Component 3 instructions. Technology. You have to practice filming before you film, guys. You just have to, or you're going to end up with some issues. Your students will need to get accustomed to the camera. You will have people that are very shy, who never do anything, that want to jump up and perform in front of the camera. You will have people that gets camera shy, so you want to get them used to it. Is there a place or video bank of past videos? Yes, we have Atlas. All of your mentors have access to Atlas and should be able to share it with you. They cannot give you the login. National Board will pull their National Board certification if they do that, but they have access and can show it to you. Even if you are online, your mentor has been instructed by me to show you the videos via Zoom. So they can show you videos of what it looks like. As a matter of fact, if I get a moment, I might even pull up one and show it to you tonight. Here, you've got your students would need to get accustomed. We've read that. You also need to get accustomed to your camera settings and volume control. Volume control is one of the main problems as well. I have seen many videos that look great and you can't hear what anyone is saying. And yes, you can script what's being said sometimes, but guys, if you can't understand nothing, neither can your assessor. If you got your students working in groups, you definitely want to practice videoing ahead of time. And you need to train those students that when you go to one group, the volume of the class goes down. Because if all you hear is the busy hum of learning in the background and you can't hear what the kids are saying or interacting with each other, you're not going to be able to use that video. If someone is taping you, make sure they know they cannot turn off the camera. It will void your video, okay? Make sure also that they scan the room to show all the resources that you're using. If you have a projector, make sure you have something instructional projected up on the board and that's included when they scan around the room, okay? Don't worry if your video is a little wobbly. That happens. That's not an issue. Here, okay, this is a little thing that I found when I was doing, and I found it on Amazon for $22. If you have access to a recorder, that's great, but this was actually, it was actually built for teachers, and you kind of gives you the Britney Spears feeling when you put it on, because you have that headset on and you can attach this little thing to just your belt or wear it around your neck. And if you are doing instructions, they hear your voice. So what I was doing was I did some talking, I did some group instruction first, and then they broke up into groups and they were rotating from center to center, and I was at one center. I was at the table working with a small group, and all I did was take this thing off and put it in the middle of the table, and it was really great because it picked up the small group too. So, but you don't have to buy this. I know sometimes teachers really don't know what to do, and $22 isn't bad, and it worked really, really well for me. You can check with your VOTEC center. I've even seen people borrow things from their church before, but you've got to try it before you go live with it, guys. Okay, we have a question here. How do you get shy students talking? You need to find a topic that they cannot help but to talk about, or maybe put them with someone that they cannot help but to talk to. You know, if they're shy, there may be someone that they, and I don't mean just busybody chatting, but if they're shy, there may be somebody they really look up to and would really enjoy working with. And chances are, if you pair them with that person, you will get more out of them. I know as you get older, boys and girls act kind of funny when you put them together, but hopefully, they'll understand that they're working together toward an academic goal to help with that. Okay, let's look at a few more technical matters. Use a tripod or make your cameraman practice walking and videotaping at the same time. If you're taping yourself, which I've done that before too, you could just set it up and move it around, or pick the whole thing up and move it to another group. But if someone is going to video you, you do want them to have practice walking around. And guys, look, if it's another teacher, you need to tell them they cannot speak up. One time I was videoing, and I was actually doing my renewal, and I borrowed a class, and we kind of ended up team teaching. So I always tape more than what I'm supposed to, but you got to make sure that they practice that too. And if they've never videoed before, they do need some practice walking around with that. Also, be specific. Tell your video cameraman what you want recorded. You don't want to just leave it to them, especially if they're not an educator and in your classroom. You need to tell them, look, I want you to scan the room. I want you to get me talking. I want you to get the kids working independently. I want you to zoom in, say we've got to be able to hear the students. So you definitely want them to come in and practice. And again, we said, if you got anything on display, and if it is going to be on display, you want to use it and you want to have something important on it. Make sure it's legible. The camera should be pointed on the speaker. Set the zoom lens to the widest angle. Okay. Stopped. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, and I ran out of room on my SD card. Oh, that sounds like something that happened to me. I'm reading about it ran out of room on the SD card. Okay, 2 things about that. Make sure you have a new SD card, and make sure that camera is not set on HD. And guys, a lot of things that you video with now, one of the best videos I ever saw was shot with an iPad. But the person recording it put their finger over the speaker, so it just went totally mute for about 40 seconds or maybe even 2 minutes. So be careful if you're recording with a device like that. The video quality will be great, but you don't want to do something to ruin your sound. And again, if it can happen, plan on it. Like I said, my SD card corrupted. Who's ever heard of an SD card corrupting before? So we'll keep talking, but that's good. Thanks for sharing that. If your camera fails, use your smartphone. That's very significant. If you go to video that day and you've got everything set up and your camera doesn't work, then just tell your friend, whoever your video buddy is, look, you're going to have to take this on my phone, or you're going to have to take this on an iPad, okay? That will work. Just make sure the audio works too. I've warned you about the HD. Your video name should be video 1 and 2. And here we go about students responding differently. Some will become shy while others will turn into actors. You want to practice, okay? Analyzing your videos. You want to tape ahead of time and watch your video carefully. Now, this is very important. I've always heard this, and National Board says this too. Turn your sound off and watch the video again. Why would we say that? Well, because when we're watching the video with the sound, what are we doing? We're listening and looking at specifically who is talking. What about the rest of the kids? You could be teaching and thinking things are going great, and then you turn the volume off, and guess what? Johnny's done pulled that AR book out again, and he's got it under his desk, and he's reading it. Or Mary is texting in her purse. Okay, so those are things you probably wouldn't notice unless you turn the sound off. Ask candidate, support, or friend to watch and make suggestions. Now, this is hard. Nobody wants to retape. But I'm going to tell you guys, if your mentor tells you, look, I just don't think this video's got what it needs to be in it, believe me, it's a whole lot better to retape now than have to retape as an advanced candidate, okay? Assure you can answer all the analysis questions that follow. Is your writing clear? Can the assessor easily follow your thinking? Here's some common technology issues. We've already talked about filming. on HD, editing videos. And by editing, I just mean trimming. You know you can only have 15 minutes. Here you have, this is QuickTime. If you have a Mac, let me tell you, the easiest thing you can do is use QuickTime. If you have a Mac, even if you don't know it, it is on your computer. If you will just go to the Finder and look in Applications, you'll see QuickTime. It's the little Q. You insert your whole video, it opens up like this, and you see on the bottom, you can just do what you want and click trim, and it cuts it. Now, I'm not a PC person, so I'm not for sure about PC. You could ask your tech guy at your school or your district to help you with that. But National Board, as well as the WCTP program, provides a whole lot of video converters and video compression programs. You can find all of those in your electronic submission module in WCTP 601. Okay, additional resources. Okay, I am going to stop share for just a moment. And I'm going to take any questions, and then I'm going to show you guys a few more things. Any questions about technologies that you have? Any questions about technology? Okay. All right. Let's see if I cannot show you a few more things. Let's hope I have not forgotten my password. Okay, this is Atlas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, and again, all of your mentors have access to this. And again, unfortunately, it is not something they can share with you. But you see, it allows you to look at what your school setting is. If you want to see, I'm going to click. Let's do inquiry method. How's that? Because we know a lot of us need to do that. And I am going to choose. Let's see. Certificate areas. There's some more. Let's do an early childhood generalist, and let's see what I get. Okay. Here, I'm just going to pick up on this one. This is, well, that's kindergarten. Let's see. Here's a grade 2. Let's do this. This is understanding the relationship between water and temperature. Again, guys, this is just a grade 2. So what you have access to is a video. This is the old process, but it doesn't matter if they're not answering the exact questions. And you hit. What do you? Okay, the National Board did this. Any of these videos certified at a 3.75 or higher. And this is actually a good video for me to show you because this is a noisy classroom. But you can still hear the students, and the National Board actually went in and added the words underneath it, so that's not something you need to try and do. 7, 9, yeah, maybe like 54 or something. You don't need to touch it. Yeah. You don't need to touch Yeah, one more. Okay, I'm not going to show the whole video. I just want to show you what's available so you can talk with your mentors. That's not all. Look at this. It's down below here is the written commentary. So you can actually read the commentary and see what the language looks like and exactly what is going on. This is such a phenomenal resource. Here's the background. So this is the case information. Here you can even see what instructional materials looked like. Okay, well, that one's not opening. Let me go back and pick one that maybe we can get it to open on. Let me show you one more. Let me do, let's do ELA this time. Let's go to secondary. I'm going to take inquiry off. I'm going to do okay, here we have got a fishbowl. So let's see, let's just go with that one and see what that is. This is 11th grade class.
In the 1920s, it was pretty much the beginning of women getting their rights with men. Before, the women always had to stay at home, and then in the 1920s, they were finally allowed to go drinking and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of showed how men were still powerful, but Daisy tried to say stuff about it.
20s. What is the one thing that liberates you to some degree?
That's the teacher.
What is the one thing that makes you have some power if you're a woman? Your looks. Your looks. But the problem is, if you have looks and brains, you're also going to be fully aware of what?
The fact that you're just being used.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, that's 15 minutes that you could look at. Let's look and see if we can open these instructional materials. Yes, here they are explaining it. And again, this is the old process, so it may look different from yours. But you can see where they're explaining what theirs were and how they used everything. Now, you guys don't have to do a layout anymore. Used to, that was required. Then again, you have the commentary. Okay. So let me stop that. I guess everybody is probably pretty excited about that. Somebody's asking me if everyone should speak during their seminar. You'll need to ask your mentor that. You know, I'm just an MCGN, so I'm really not sure about that. I can't hear you. I wasn't talking. I was actually sharing a video at that point. Did you guys see the video from Atlas? Were you able to see that? Okay. All right. Let me show you one more thing. I'm going to share my screen again. Now we're going to go to, well, hold on one second. I'll show you some resources that are in WCTP 601 that will help you. And let me make my screen look like your screen. Okay, I do want to point out that if you are an online candidate, make sure you watch this video. Your mentor will not provide feedback to you unless you follow our online protocol for mentoring. Also, here you have a survival guide and you have WCTP 601 at a glance, and that is your table of contents for this. Over on the left, I have been working in here a little bit. Before we get to the component 3, you see this Zoom library? This is what I was telling you about. Let me show you what it is and what it's going to be. That's all of our meetings, and that's your ID. You know that already. If you go down to the bottom, it's got information for joining Zoom. Actually, you already know that too. You can see I'm going to do summer standards this summer, and after I've completed them all, I will do a Zoom video about each component, and I will put that here for you if you need a refresher. I know many of you guys are doing this process in 2 years. The National Board process, that's the specifics that you have to know before you begin this. The standards, this name will probably change a little bit, but this will have videos about how you get to know your standards, how you successfully integrate the standards, There'll also be something about rubrics, using and locating your resources, and then you can see there'll be a page for each one. If you click on component 3 right now, well, there's nothing there. But tomorrow when you click on it, it will open and you will actually find this video, hopefully, if I did my recording correctly. Okay, let's look at the component 3. This is what I hope all of you guys have been in. Even if you are in face-to-face, you still need to be using this. Here you have, these are assignments. If you're online, this is how you have to, in order to receive feedback, you have to submit it this way. The video for online candidates explain that. That's your submission checklist. And if you keep going, you will find some other resources. This is just some really good information. I was wanting to find over here, you can see it. If you look over here on the left, you see we have things about the different forms. And when you check on one of the forms, like the instructional planning form, you can see when you go to it, not only do you have the form, I elaborate on the form as well. So, and to get specific, it cannot be. That's not possible. It was not designed to be. You should always, and it always tells you, you should have your materials in front of you. It uses different samples as you go through it. Here you're talking about, if also digital learners. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this is the pedagogy wheel, and it shows you different apps, and it aligns it with Bloom's taxonomy. So it's great for integrating technology, and they've actually got a video that goes with that as well. And then you've got information about student engagement, and then look at this. You've got a ton of resources about helping you analyze your videos and things such as that. And all of this, if you will look in your general portfolio instructions, your general portfolio instructions also has, if you go to the home page and to our toolbox, you'll see we have the general portfolio instructions. Let me show you that really quick, because like a whole third of this is about component 3. Again, you know, you have the sample writing in here. You definitely make sure you want to look at that, because again, we do not want much describing. A whole lot is going to be analyzing. Here we go. We are starting on page, that's reviewing your writing. I think it follows that, and it pretty much goes to the end of this document. I was telling you, you have to have your release forms, recording videos for component 3. There you go, starts on page 32. And it's got a lot of really, really good information. Again, this is in general portfolio instructions. So make sure that you have read through this. And then look, guys, it's got exercises for analyzing your video in here. Different questions and things that, again, we want you to practice. So tons of good information in here to help you with your videoing. Okay, we'll stop sharing again. Okay, and we're back. Okay, so I have shown you Atlas. I have shown you the Zoom library, which I think everybody will be very excited about when I start putting videos in there, once you really see what it's going to be. And then we've taken a brief part. Thanks for putting Zoom in. You're welcome. Oh, okay. When are you going to speak more on having lessons from 2 different instructional units? Okay, let's talk about that. The reason is you're really modeling. Think about it. This unit, this component's 30%. So you're really showing your pedagogical skills as an instructor, as a teacher. So, and you're showing how you do not just teach the same every day. You make adjustments to your teaching. You plan your lessons based on that student knowledge. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you need a learning styles test. You need an interest inventory. So, you know, and again, depending on what your goals are, even as simple as what are your goals, that could help lead into what type of instructional strategy that you choose for component 3. And again, 2 instructional units, that is like if you were a high school English teacher, maybe, or social studies. You might do one on World War II and one on immigration. You wouldn't use the same topic. And not only would you not use the same topic, you would use a different teaching strategy to teach. And again, just being that, y'all know that video, we only watched like maybe 30 seconds of those second graders working together. It always blows my mind when I see those Atlas videos, what they're doing at such young grade ages. But you could see they weren't just saying well with national boards. The students have to be actively involved doing something. And it's okay for them to make mistakes. That's part of the learning process. Okay, that's part of the inquiry process. That's when you go in and say, hey, can you tell me what's going on? Why did you do this? Why did that happen? Well, why do you think that happened? You want to ask open-ended questions. And you do not want to ask the same questions if you go from group to group. That makes it look very, very staged. Okay? Any other questions? Did y'all see how easy it was for me to share Atlas in a Zoom video? So that's why you shouldn't be afraid to ask your online mentors. It was easy, wasn't it? All I had to do is do screen share and log in. Okay, you guys are awfully quiet. Okay, well, I guess that concludes our meeting for tonight. And again, once I figure out how to do it, I will put this video in our Zoom library. Hopefully I'll be able to successfully get that there tomorrow. And next week, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the famous component 4. How many of you guys are doing component 4 this year? Me. Yes. Okay, that's great. Okay, and again, this video tomorrow will be online, so if you missed something, hopefully you can just log in and watch it. And again, I'm going to do a wide variety of topics on Zoom. And once I get, gotcha, Janae, I'll look for you tonight. And once I get all of the videos done I know to do, then I'm going to start saying, okay, now what do you want me to do a video on? So really, guys, we work really hard to make this program as big of a support as we can for you guys. So wish all of you a great evening, and I will see you back here next week.